this whole lesson is going to be focused on finding the circumference of a circle. Um, we learned that a circumference is basically how far around the outside of a circle it is. So in the same way, the example we'd used on the last lesson was thinking of a square or a rectangle. And think of it as like finding the perimeter of it, except for instead of a rectangle, it'll be a circle. You know, if this was a 1 and this was a 5, we could use the formula of A equals 2 times the length plus the, plus 2 times the width of the rectangle. And once you plug in the width and the length in, next thing you know, 2 times 5 plus 2 times 1, you would get, let's see, that'd be 10 plus 2, that'd be 12. And that's the same thing as if we added up all the sides of it. This would be a 1, and this would be a 5, and 5 plus 5 is 10, and 1 plus 1 is 2. So again, we got the perimeter of 12 units again. So we can use a formula to find the perimeter of a rectangle, which is the outside measurement of it, you know, the sum of all the sides. But a circle does not have any sides. And so we pretty much have to rely on this formula of circumference equals 2 times pi times radius. The C just stands for circumference, so that's no big mystery. That's all that it stands for. We know that this is the number 2. We know how to type pi in our calculators. If not, I'll show you that today. And we also know that it's also a lot of times represented by just 3.14. So the only thing that we really have to find a lot of times is r, which is the radius. And we spent a lot of time on the first lesson learning about the radius and diameter and that sort of thing. And so we should be really good at finding the radius. So we look at these circles and we're asked, what's the circumference of the circle? What's the measurement of this outside of the circle? If this thing was drawn to scale and I had a tape measure that could bend around these corners perfectly, how far would I have to stretch this thing around to measure the outside of the circle? Well, thankfully we don't have to do that. We have the formula. It'll be given to you every single day, every single class, and we just go fill it in. Let's see, circumference equals 2 times pi times the radius. What's my radius? Let's see, the radius is from the center of a circle to the edge of the circle. Let's see, that's 2 inches, so times 2. 2 times 2 is 4, and then we just have to times that by pi. Sometimes you'll see answers just left in terms of pi, and they'll say, well, the circumference is 4 pi, and that's correct, but a lot of times we want you to go ahead and multiply it. There we go. I had my mic muted there. Sorry. Once you plug that into the calculator, 4 times pi, you will get 12.566376061 come up on your screen. Because pi is a never-ending number, your answer is going to go on forever too. Personally, I would recommend you always round it to the nearest hundredth. So we'll look at this 1/6 right here, and that'll help us round it up to C is about approximately 12.57 inches. So the circumference around the circle is about 12.5 inches. This is our final answer. Pay attention to what directions will tell you. Sometimes they'll say round to the nearest tenth, you know, the first decimal place, the nearest hundredth, the second decimal place, or they'll say keep it in terms of pi, and that means you don't multiply it by pi, you just keep it in your answer just like that. Let's take a look at this circle. So the radius is 6.1, and that's what we need. So now we'll just go and we'll plug it in. 2 times pi times 6.1. And if we were wanting to keep it in terms of pi, you would just multiply the 2 and 6.1, and that would be 12.2. So if they said, hey, give us the circumference of the circle in terms of pi, you would be done right here and you say it's 12.2 pi inches. See how it was inches right here? It'll be inches for your answer. If they say round to this nearest hundredth, go ahead and work that out. That'd be 12.2 times pi. And on my calculator here, that's showing as 38.327 inches, which once you round it to the nearest hundredth, the 7 would round that up to a 3, so it would be 38.33 inches. That would be our circumference. So it's about a yard around. It's more than 36 inches around this circle. That's all that we do for the easy ones. However, they'll also throw this nice little variation into it. They'll give you a diameter at times. So let's just put a center dot right in there. That'll be the center. So this is the diameter that's running through it. This whole thing is 4 inches. Be very careful about that. This whole line is 4 inches here. This line is 2 inches. And it's not drawn to scale. I probably should have made that smaller. But this is not a diameter. It's not a radius. This is a chord. We don't even care about that. If it says what's the circumference of the circle, we need to figure out what's the radius. Well, this is a diameter. This is a chord. What do we do? Oh yeah, a diameter is two radiuses together. So see this green radius that I'm drawing in here? That's half of the diameter. So what's half of 4? It's 2 inches. So C would equal 2 times pi times 2. And again, if we wanted it in terms of pi, we would just say 4 pi. We've multiplied all the numbers that are not pi. So we'd be finished there. If I said round to the nearest hundredth, I need to go ahead and multiply 4 times pi, and I would get 12.566. And then the decimals just keep going, but I just need that third decimal place to help us round to the nearest hundredth, which would be 12.57. Let's see, what do we have this time? Inches again? Inches. So the circumference, the distance around the circle, is 12.57 inches. To recap, circumference, it's just wanting to know how far around a circle it is. Don't let the size of this word scare you. It's like a $6 word. We need to use it so that way we sound competent, but don't let it scare you. We use the formula of C equals 2 pi r to let us know what the circumference is, and again, that's what the C means. We already understand what the 2 is. It's just a number in there. Pi is basically 3.14. Unless they tell you to use 3.14 for pi, though, don't do it. Just use the pi button on your calculator. If they tell you that pi is represented by 3.14, please go ahead and use 3.14. It'll throw your answer off a little bit. And then the R. What does the R stand for? The radius. So if you can keep that in mind, that circumference is just the distance around a circle, and the C in this formula is going to be our answer, and we just have to figure out what the R is and multiply those three things together. Circumference becomes very, very easy. If you have any questions, please come ask me. Show me the parts that you're a little unsure of, and we'll make sure that we clear that up so that way you're ready to go for the quizzes and tests.